Hello and welcome to another video on TCGplayer.com. My name is Steve Rubin. This week we have Sultai Energy, a deck that is kind of popping up all of a sudden. It won the SCG Open and also topped for the SCG Open. Two brothers, Danny and Andrew Jessup, with the exact same list. And I've said this in my articles before, like with Bant Company and some other circumstances. You know, whenever I see two of the exact same deck do well at the same tournament, it always kind of piques my interest, because those, there's normally, obviously there can be an anomaly, but normally it means that there's something there. It means the deck is good, or it's well positioned, or both. So let's get into the Sultai deck. So just a little bit of backstory behind the Sultai deck. It's kind of, we saw Teamer Energy in the kind of trenches and standard for a while. It's been like the de facto, is it the best deck, or is Mono Red the best deck? They've both been good, but Teamer's been good for a while. And so good that there were a lot of mirror matches, and people started playing with the Scarab God in their Teamer deck, splashing black. Now they call it 4-color energy, but it's really just Teamer Energy with the Scarab God and maybe Dispossess. So then, after all that happened, a new set came out, Ixalan came out, and the best card in Ixalan, I think, is Hostage Taker, which is a card that works really well with the Scarab God. It's just super sick late game, really good value creature, answers lots of things, kills artifacts, which is really relevant, like kills Heart of Kirin, or Gift of the God Pharaoh, or God Pharaoh's Gift, / the Gate, even Heart of Kirin. It's really good disruption. And it kind of slots in well with Scarab God decks. The problem is that, it's kind of awkward on the mana and probably can't play it in Teamer. So the Sultai deck kind of came into play, where instead of playing Harness Lightning and instead of playing Glorybringer and Chandra, you play black, and you get to play Hostage Taker, and you get to play Fatal Push, and kind of the diamond in the rough, Glintsleeve Siphoner, kind of a forgotten about card. So let's go ahead and get into the deck tech. We have 21 lands, which I think is possibly one land too few. After playing the deck a bit, but we have 4 Ether Hubs, which, part of being energy is that you just have these broken lands. You have Ether Hub and Attune, which is essentially a land which just creates energy, which is what you want to be doing, and gives you any color of mana that you're missing. So 4 Ether Hubs, 4 Attunes, not very surprised. 4 Blooming Marsh and 4 Botanical Sanctums. Like I said in my article, this deck is kind of like a modern deck. Weirdly, you've got an awesome mana base, right? You have these fast lands that are dual lands, basically Tropical Island and Bayou, and you've got Ether Hub, which is just taps for any color, and then you even have Fetid Pools if you want them for cycling lands and basics. So you have really fast mana, and then you have really a lot of cheap and interactive spells. So you have 4 Fatal Push and 4 Blossoming Defense. Fatal Push is actually, after playing this deck a lot, is not necessarily as good as it looks in the format, because without Evolving Wilds, without like Tireless Tracker clues, it's kind of tough to get Revolt. And in this format, like, you want to kill Hostage Taker, you want to kill like Bristling Hydra with the trigger on the stack, stuff like that. You want to kill On Crop Crasher. So I found it to be a little bit worse than normal, but it is still a good card. And you do have Walking Ballista to combo with it to get Revolts. Then 4 Blossoming Defense. This is kind of the getcha kind of card. But in this deck, it's a little bit more than that, because normally it looks like a kind of card that is just like a miser, but with combination of Hostage Shaker is really good. Lets you play the Hostage Shaker, and then just if they have removal, you can Blossoming Defense it. Then you get to untap more often and, actually take their guy hostage, which is really nice. Blossoming Defense also really good with the Siphoner, because this is just kind of like your draw card engine. Once you get the Siphoner going, drawing to a turn, it's good against every deck. You're probably not going to lose that game. Longtusk Cub, as we've seen in Teamer Energy, is kind of that really, really annoying card that you hate to play against, because, if you have the answer, you don't really care, or if they draw it late game, you don't really care. But if they play it on turn 2, like with an Attune, kill your first blocker, it just gets so out of hand so quickly. It's really good. And in this deck, you have Winding Constrictor even to combo with it. Lets you make a really big cub. Walking Ballista is another card that, is really good against Mono Red, but isn't great against that much stuff. But for this deck, since you're already playing the Constrictors, you play it, and you play the Rishkar, of course. So Walking Ballista is okay. I think it's one of the weak spots of the deck, is this like whole Winding Constrictor Ballista section, because your other 2-drops are just better. But I'll talk about that more like in my article, and maybe briefly during my games you'll see like me citing some out. So 2 Rishkar, it's kind of a reasonable, lets you push through with your Cub, makes your Siphoner faster, gives you a little bit of mana. Kind of nice with Blossoming Defense, I've noticed, because you can pump something and then have that Blossoming Defense up earlier than normal. 4 Rogue Refiners, just bread and butter of any energy deck. Gives you the energy, draws you cards as you hit land drops. 4 Hostage Shaker, like we said before, is kind of the reason to be Sultai instead of Teamer. You get to play with the Hostage Shaker, which is really, really good. Verdurous Gearhulk. Danny Jessup played the Scarab God, but I think it's more of a sideboard card. This deck really, the Constrictors without Nissa are just a lot worse. Enough so that I think that maybe a more controlling deck, like that plays like Servants and the Scarab God, could be correct. But the Winding Constrictor just needs some more help. I think Verdurous Gearhulk is really nice. Lets you put more pressure on your opponents. A lot of game ones are about being really fast, like the Sultai Mirror or Mono Red or against like Blue-White Approach. You just want to be really fast. And, you know, because they have cards like Cast Out to deal with the Scarab God. They have cards like Fumigate, which is you know, good against Scarab God, but or if you're playing against a green-black deck, you know, they might have Scarab Gods or Hostage Shakers of their own. Verdurous Gearhulk comes into play and gives you those counters no matter what. So it's a little bit better against Hostage Shaker, assuming you have outs of your own, but it makes your Ballistas a little bit better, which, like I said, are also bad. Not bad, sorry, but they're not as good as we've remembered them in old green-black decks. So that's why I'm playing the 1 Gearhulk. Move on to the sideboard. Looks really similar to the sideboard from Star City games, but I cut the Duress. I just think that Duress isn't that good. It's not that good against Gift, because they actually only have like Gates and Gifts, and now they have like Hostage Takers and the Scarab God. And I don't find it that good against the blue-white approach decks either, mostly because those decks they side in Torrential Gearhulk and they side in Regal Caracal because they're planning on you maybe Lost Legacying them. And I just find Duress to not be that great of a top deck. So we're playing Spell Pierces and Negates. Like a second Spell Pierce is more than they had, but I found Spell Pierce to be really, really effective because I've even had games where I've been on the draw and like countered a Chandra with it against Mono Red, or you know, like it just, that one less mana gives you so much more freedom to play out like an extra threat against a control deck. Also lets you potentially double spell a lot easier, like with Blossoming Defense. Just having such cheap cards can really help you like overwhelm them early without overextending, because you only need the 1 mana. 2 Negates, pretty self-explanatory. 2 Dispossess. I found another reason that I don't like Duress is that it seems weird to play Duress, but Dispossess is just such a good card against Gift of the God Pharaoh that I feel like playing the Duress is not ideal, because there's just a better option. Like, obviously, Duress is good in other matchups, but I don't think it's that good. I think that people think Duress is a lot better. Duress is not Thoughtseize, you know? It's just not as good as it looks, especially in a deck that's trying to, like, play creatures and just not blitz your opponent down, but play creatures and gain momentum. Like, this deck is a lot about gaining battlefield momentum, where, like, a Duress, you know, you can take their best spell, but like you have to spend a mana and it doesn't affect the board at all. A counter spell, like a Spell Pierce, like the extra Spell Pierce, you know, if they tap out for something, like you can just play the Spell Pierce. You're not seeing their hand or taking a card out, but it's a much better mana deal. You know, if they try to settle the wreckage, you can Spell Pierce it. Like you're up like 3 mana in that exchange. 1 Lost Legacy, just for approach decks. They're pretty popular right now. 2 Vraska's Contempt. For mirror matches, you need to kill Glorybringer, you need to kill Scarab God. Also good against Mono Red, because it's like your best option really to kill a Hazoret. Scarab God for the mirror, for control. 4 Deathborn Scavenger. This might be 1 or 2 too many, but this card's actually pretty good against Mono Red, because it comes down and it exiles. It just gains you 2 life, and it's really good against their, like, your guy can't block plan, because you can actually race them. And having some life gain is nice, but the reason that this card's actually in the sideboard is because it's also good against Gift. Because you can keep them off of activating Gate by exiling creatures, and it just gets away their Hostage Shaker, it gets away their Angel of Invention. Is just really nice against them too. Kind of competes with Rogue Refiner, which is a bit weird. So it's possible there's better stuff here, But that's the deck. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoy the games. I played a lot. I actually recorded a lot of games, and this is a disclaimer, which I'm also going to put in my article. But if you're just watching the videos, is I think this deck, and I'm not trying to be rude, but I think that this deck might just not be very good. And it might be like the kind of SCG week 1 syndrome where you have this deck that does well at the SCG, like the Jessups are much better than the people that they were playing against for the most part. You know, did really well with a deck that wasn't that good, and just because they have an advantage in play skill. It's possible that I'm wrong, but so far I haven't had that great results. We'll see if I can do better in this league I'm about to record. I will see you guys there. Thank you for tuning in.